Hey guys, welcome back to the Shipmate YouTube channel. This week we're talking all about pricing. If you're an e-commerce seller and you want to know how to price, you can't miss this one. So guys, whether you're new to e-commerce or you're an experienced seller, there's really only three ways to price what you're selling online. So we're going to go through all three of these methods today. One is one that I think most of you are doing. Another is something I recommend you don't do. And the third is what I think the best way to price is. Without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk about is comparison pricing, right? This is what I think a lot of you guys are doing, and it's probably the most common form of pricing I see out there in the e-commerce space. And this is when you go online and you find people selling an item that's similar than yours, and you compile a list of these to figure out what ballpark you should price your item on, and then you just price somewhere in that range and you're good to go. And therethere's some benefits and some drawbacks to this. One of the biggest benefits is that you're finding similar items. So you know you're within the market, you know you're in the right price range. One of the main drawbacks is it's not really the best representation of your product, because if you've listened to any of our videos or you've been selling for a while, you know there's differentiating factors that make your product different than everybody else's. So therefore, since your product is different, it could have a different price and perform differently than these similar products. So when you're selling online, let's assume we were selling an iron, right? If we're selling a clothes iron, they can come in different wattages, right? They can come with different types of sole plates, right? They can be steel or they can be carbon or all different types of things, right? There can be different settings, different modes, different adjustments, right? So once we start looking at all these different factors, all these different irons on Amazon or eBay or Walmart, we can find a couple that look like ours, and we can price our product similarly or a shade under these products. Like I said, this is what I think most e-commerce sellers are doing, and it has its merits, and that's why it is so popular. But now, let's go into something I don't recommend, and that is pricing on margin, right? So if you're going to be selling something online, a common misconception is if I set a percentage I want to make, called a margin, right? Like 30%, 40%, 50%, there's no way I can lose money, right? Because I'm guaranteeing that I'm going to make my 30% at the end of the day. So a lot of times people will just say, I want to make 30%, I paid $10 for this, let's sell it for $13, and that's the end of the thought. The problem is this is a poor thought to have, because it's possible that you don't sell all your inventory. And if you don't sell all your inventory, you can actually lose money, despite the thought that if I price with enough margin, there's no way I come out negative. So it really depends on your sales velocity. Also, this might not be the optimal price point where you will make the most money, right? Because when we think about profitability at its most simple level is the sale price of an item minus any costs times the quantity of that item sold, right? So if I have inefficient pricing, I might only sell a couple units a month. But if I have very competitive, efficient pricing, I can sell hundreds of units a month or even thousands of units a month, and that could make up for a smaller margin. So I'm not saying you have to have really tight margins. I'm not saying you have to undercut everybody, but just fixating on some random markup, whether it be a dollar amount or a percentage amount, is not the way to go. But I know tons of people that fall into this trap, and you see it everywhere. Finally, my favorite way of pricing is formulaic pricing, right? I like to price using math. And we all know that math is a non-biased way to ensure that you are making the most money, the most profit, right? Because like I said, you can sell something for $1 and sell 1,000,000 of it, or you can sell something for $100 and sell 5 of it, right? But at the end of the day, it's going to be your profit times the quantity sold, and whichever number is bigger is the number you should go with as a seller, because it puts more money into your pocket at the end of the day. So usually I will use comparison pricing to set an introductory price. I usually have to come in $1 or $2 under my competition just to establish the product. But once I have some sales history, let's say 2 or 3 months worth of sales history, I like to write out the formula, right? Which is profit equals the selling price of the item minus the cost of the item times the quantity that I sold. Right? So let's assume a really simple example here. Let's say I'm selling an iron on Amazon really cheap, $10, right? And it only cost me $5. This is a crazy example, but it makes the math easy. So that means I would have a profit of $5 times a quantity, which let's just say it's 100. That means I made $500 this month from selling that iron. Now, let's say I think that this price is a little low and I think I could get more money for my iron. So I'm considering a 20% price increase. How will I know if my 20% price increase is effective? Well, I want to find what is known as the break-even quantity, right? So if I know I make $500 under my current operating procedure, I want to write the exact same formula, right, which would be 500 equals the quantity of the selling price minus the cost, right, which would be 12 minus 5 now, times Q. And I want to solve for Q, right, some basic algebra. And as I work down through the math, right, you're going to find out that I would have to sell a quantity of approximately 71.5 units to break even. So I could sell approximately 30 less units and break even. So if I think I could raise the price of my product by 20% or $2, and I would not lose 30% of my sales, it's probably in my best interest to do so. And if I think this is a reasonable thing to do, I would then enact this price increase, follow the data, and if the number at the end of the day for my sales happens to be over 71.5, it was a good decision, right? And I would want to continue this policy and possibly even continue to readjust over time depending on the performance. If for some reason I sold less than 71.5 units, I may want to reconsider this policy and go with a smaller price increase or no price increase at all, right? So you're going to want to be continually using the data you are acquiring to discover where your break-even points are so you can adjust your pricing over time. Another cool thing about this is you can solve for any variable in this equation. So let's say, the cost of goods went up. You saw a 10% increase in the cost of goods, and you're debating, increasing the price of your product. You can plug in all those variables and you can see what that impact is going to be and decide whether or not it's worth your while to increase your price, right? Like you can change these numbers around, and figure out how things will affect you, how things won't affect you, and you can make informed decisions around the data. And that's what's really cool about using, math or a formulaic method to price your products. And this is something I used to do all the time. Every 3 months, I'd take all the data, put it in a spreadsheet, run this formula, and decide whether I was going to move the price up, move the price down, keep the price the same, what I was going to do. So in summary, what I would recommend is if you are pricing with just like a specific margin or a specific price point in mind, you're probably doing it wrong and would want to reconsider. If you're doing some comparison pricing, it can be effective, especially if there's a lack of information. If you don't have a lot of sales data, sometimes this is the best you can do, and I recommend to continue to do that. But at the end of the day, using math and making informed pricing decisions is the best way to ensure the highest profitability when selling online, especially on Amazon. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you could do us a favor, give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a share. It really helps us out. We're really trying to grow the channel. And you know what about pricing? It's absolutely free. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next week on the Shipmate YouTube channel.